Do. Hello everyone. Today we have new episode of our IT series, and today we will discuss everything about REST API. Where is it? What's the animal? Why do we need it at all? We know that you are very busy. We value your time. Let's go. In simple words, what does it mean? Imagine that we have some clients, desktop software or mobile applications, and we have our data storage. It can be database, it can be any file storage, file database. In classic situation, all our clients can directly perform requests to the database. Later we will discuss pros and cons of the solution. But if we have REST API server, we have some middle layer which processes all our data access requests. It means that if we need something, our client via some, for example, web or VPN perform HTTP or HTTPS request to our REST API. Imagine that REST API is just web. It can be web application, it can be desktop application. It's some application which has, for example, HTTP protocol support. And another client performs the request. It can be HTTPS, and as a data package, it can be JSON, XML, or any other custom, for example, binary or string content. The REST API server has entry points which processes these requests, processes them inside its own business logic, perform necessary requests to database directly or also via the web, and prepare responses and send and response the data in response queries. Couple words how was it a REST API server in terms of its implementation. Let's imagine it can be web application or any desktop application. Let's imagine that this is some application which can be located or hosted on virtual machine or on premises web server, or on premises server, on data in data center, it's in cloud, or even share it on shared web hosting. Imagine this is just like some abstracted application which can be implemented in different technologies using different frameworks and platforms. This application has entry points. Entry points is just some type of request for some necessary data. For example, get list of stores, get list of products, delete product, edit product. Each of these operations let's call entry point. This application has different entry points. It processes them and somehow retrieve data from database, put data to database, process it, and responds to the client. How can we implement it? We have a lot of options, and here we just list some of them. Of course, you can combine different frameworks, languages, development environments, and so on. It can be like a web application, and web application, we can develop or implement using PHP, JavaScript. We can implement it even as Delphi ISPI application, like an extension for web server. It can be, of course, as a ASP.NET application. It's like one type of implementation. Another one, like we can implement it as a desktop application where we have some executable or service which will be started, and the service will have, for example, open port, for example 8080, and all your entry points will go through this port. And we can, of course, like desktop app, It can be some service application, as I said. It can be some additional application as a TMS. They have TMS software has its own product for framework for implementation of REST API service. I'd say it can be Delphi. It can be, of course, .NET and any other desktop frameworks. Also, it can be implemented as cloud application. Cloud application have different cloud services and products, and cloud suggests you implement your software and web software, for example, in a little bit different manners, and maybe in future episodes we will discuss this. If we're talking about cloud, we can implement REST API server as logic application. We can implement it as in portal web application, where you write in all your code using web browser, upload it to the cloud, and it works. Nothing to compile, nothing to upload via FTP, and so on. Again, this is just some of the options which we can use for implementing REST API server. Which benefits will bring to us REST API server if we will implement it instead of direct data access? Data access abstractions. It means that all our clients work with one interface and don't know about exact data storage implementation. We can later just change the database. Instead of, for example, SQL Server, use MySQL, and for those clients nothing will change. They will still work with REST API server. We hide data access implementation from our clients. Let's call this data access abstractions. It's very good benefit. Then unified data access for all clients. What does it mean? That all our clients works with one implementation, like let's imagine like HTTP request with string data packages protocol. Instead of implementation, for example, from mobile application, from desktop application, from a web application, direct access for database, and you can use different technologies and you will need different drivers and implementation. This is why it's very good to have one unified process. And if you change the database, for example, or anything else, you don't need to change your client. You will just change implementation from REST API server to your data storage. Documentation. Today we have a lot of different services where you design your REST API. After that, you can export definition of your REST API as a file, and it's called Swagger, OpenAPI, and other standards. After you have this exported file, you even can theoretically automatically generate implementation for your client. We have different online services. Maybe we even have different built-in development environments implementation of this auto generation. It means that we open file, it's a Swagger file, and your IDE can auto generate models and access for working with the entry points. That's very cool. Of course, and we can implement, in this case, different additional business logic. We can add additional, for example, security, like users, roles, manage access to different entry points. We can perform great login. We can implement request limitation. Imagine that, for example, you have some product, and this product has different plans, and different plans can, for example, allow different amount of requests per month, hour, weekday, and so on, and of course many other benefits. Now let's discuss good and best practices during implementation of your client server applications. I have two markers. red and green, and let's select which practice is good and which one is not good. Story all business logic and the client. Yeah, I know a lot of great applications with this problem. Oh, okay, it's not a problem. How do you think? Is it a good or bad practice? Of course, I think it's a bad practice. Hide DB from the client. Today we have one DB. In 2 years we will have another one, and what we have to do? Oh my god, we have to rewrite everything in our client. In this case, I think that hiding DB from the client side, that's a good practice. Keep live connections to the database. You know that in our world, when we have a lot of mobile applications, live connections to the database, it can be a huge problem, because right now you have connection, then you don't have, and so on. And it will load the database, of course. In this case, I think that keeping live connections to the database is not good practice. This is why REST API is good for us, because it works via request, response. Request, response. I need data, give me data, delete this, edit, and just give me data, and that's all. I don't need anything else. Yeah, one addition, because sometimes just establishing connection to database can take a lot of time, and somebody can tell, okay, we can connect database, get data, disconnect from database, but this connect disconnect can take a lot of time. Duplicate business logic for each client. I think it's a bad practice. Provide direct DB access for the clients and developers. It means that all the developers will have direct access for your database. Sometimes it can be your team, but sometimes it can be another team which just implements integration with your product, and that's not good. Provide for them direct access to the database. It will be your problem. Establish all permissions and do it correctly. Bad practice. Control DB versioning for all your clients apps. It means that if you change some database, you can have a lot of, for example, clients implementation, and all of them have to change. Okay, you can say that this is one version of database, this is another one. If we're talking about REST API, you can have one database, but you can have couple versions of REST API which will know how to process all these differences. And some clients can switch from one version to another one. And again, you hide your database, and in this case, you won't have a headache about all this client-side implementation. This is bad practice. I think that you should have REST API which is responsible for data access versioning, but not database. We have a lot of bad practices, and only one good. But let's say that if we are talking about REST API, we are get rid of all of these problems. Cool. Okay, this is all what I wanted to say. See you on the next episode. Bye bye.